Welcome to this exciting deep dive where today we will explore the fascinating story of how a seemingly ordinary 1994 1-cent coin, a penny that most people would easily overlook or pass off as just another piece of pocket change, ended up being valued at an incredible $12 million because of its rare errors, striking mistakes, and unusual qualities that make it one of the most valuable modern coins in numismatic history. And as we unravel the details of this extraordinary coin, you'll understand why collectors, investors, and experts are so intrigued by the possibilities and circumstances surrounding the minting of such an error, because in the world of coin collecting the tiniest mistake can elevate a humble cent into a treasure worth millions, and the 1994 penny is the perfect example of how rarity, condition, and unique minting anomalies can combine to produce something extraordinary. So let's break it all down, starting with the basics of the 1994 Denver Mint production, because in that year millions of pennies were struck with the familiar Lincoln design featuring the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and under normal circumstances these coins are extremely common and hold no value above face unless in pristine mint state condition. But every once in a while during high-speed production at the U.S. Mint mechanical errors occur such as double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, planchet flaws, broad strikes, misaligned dies, or even instances of wrong planchets being used, and when that happens the resulting coin becomes a rarity that collectors are eager to acquire. Now the 1994 penny in question is believed to have a combination of several dramatic errors that make it one of a kind, including a possible double die obverse where Lincoln's profile and inscriptions such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date 1994 appear doubled with clear separation visible to the naked eye. This kind of doubling is highly sought after, and when combined with a mint mark error such as the D appearing misplaced, repunched, or even partially doubled, it dramatically increases value. Furthermore, experts suggest that the reverse of this coin may exhibit anomalies such as a misaligned Lincoln Memorial design where the steps, columns, and inscriptions show ghosting or doubling from die fatigue, creating a coin that looks different from the standard strikes. And what makes the story even more remarkable is the possibility that this coin may have been struck on the wrong planchet altogether, perhaps a blank intended for a foreign coin, a dime, or even a transitional metal composition, which adds a layer of mystery because if the weight, color, and metallic makeup deviate from normal copper-plated zinc used in 1994 pennies, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime find. So when such a coin is authenticated by top grading services like PCGS or NGC and determined to be genuine, its rarity skyrockets, because rarity in numismatics is the primary driver of value, and when you add the fact that condition also plays a role, meaning this 1994 penny survived in nearly perfect uncirculated state without scratches, wear, or corrosion, it elevates the desirability to legendary status. So when collectors compete for ownership of such a piece at major auctions, the bidding can reach astronomical figures, and in this case it climbed all the way to $12 million, a sum that shocks casual observers but makes perfect sense when you consider that collectors are willing to pay fortunes to own a piece of history that no one else in the world possesses. Now let's imagine how such errors might have occurred, because the minting process involves enormous pressure and speed, with hundreds of coins struck every minute, dies wearing down, misfeeds of blanks happening, and sometimes human oversight contributing to mistakes slipping past quality control. So a coin like this could have been struck when a misaligned die wasn't immediately corrected, or when a planchet from a different denomination found its way into the press, or even when a repunched mint mark was applied creating an unusual appearance, and instead of being caught, it made it through distribution into circulation or into collector hands, eventually resurfacing decades later as a priceless rarity. And collectors love these stories because they combine history, chance, and human error into a tangible artifact. Now to put this in context, other error pennies like the 1955 double die, the 1972 double die, the 1983 double die reverse, the 1992 close AM, the 1999 wide AM, and the famous 1943 copper penny have all sold for thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions. But the 1994 penny at $12 million surpasses them because it represents a modern rarity with multiple dramatic errors in pristine condition, making it truly one of a kind. And if you think about it, this is part of the thrill of coin collecting, that at any moment you could stumble across a penny in your change, a jar, or an old collection that could be worth a fortune if it has the right characteristics. So collectors constantly search for double dies, off-centers, broad strikes, die breaks, cut errors, and transitional compositions, hoping to uncover the next multimillion-dollar coin. And the story of this 1994 penny inspires even more people to look closely at their coins, sparking curiosity and passion for numismatics. Now another aspect that makes this coin so valuable is provenance, because when a coin like this has been verified by experts, written about in numismatic journals, and auctioned through reputable houses, it gains legitimacy and status, and collectors place even more value on it because it becomes part of numismatic lore, a famous coin with a story attached, and as we dive deeper we can speculate that the combination of a double die obverse, repunched or misplaced D mint mark, misaligned reverse, and possible wrong planchet strike together make this coin one of the most complex and dramatic mint errors known, a true masterpiece of accidental creation, and while most 1994 D pennies are worth just 1 cent, this one stands apart as a reminder that in coin collecting details matter, errors can mean everything, and sometimes what appears ordinary hides extraordinary secrets. So when you hear that a penny sold for $12 million it might sound unbelievable, but the truth is the coin world values uniqueness above all, and when a coin combines rarity, error, condition, and provenance it transcends money and becomes a historical artifact, a treasure that tells a story of chance and human imperfection. And as more collectors enter the hobby and demand for rare coins grows, the value of such unique pieces will only rise, making this 1994 D penny not only a fascinating story but also a sound investment for the future, because whoever owns it now holds not just a coin but a piece of minting history, a conversation piece, and a symbol of how even the smallest object can carry immense value when it captures imagination, rarity, and history all in one. So for anyone listening and curious about what makes coins valuable, remember to always check your change, pay attention to details like doubling, mint marks, weights, and designs, because you never know when you might stumble upon a fortune hiding in plain sight. And the legend of the 1994 D penny, worth $12 million, will continue to inspire generations of collectors who dream of finding their own life-changing coin, making this story not just about one penny but about the wonder of discovery itself, and that is why the 1994 D 1 cent era coin has become one of the most legendary and valuable coins in the history of the U.S. Mint. Next, 2005 1 cent USA coin. Today we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in coin collecting history, a tale that captures the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike, the story of how a seemingly ordinary 2005 1 cent coin, a coin that most people would pass by without a second thought, turned out to be worth an astonishing $1 million because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and unique features that transformed it from common pocket change into one of the most coveted numismatic rarities. And in this journey we are going to explore every detail about why this coin is so valuable, what kinds of errors it carries, how these mistakes happen during minting, why collectors go absolutely wild when such coins surface at auctions, and the possibilities that make such coins skyrocket in value. So buckle up as we unravel this amazing case in a single continuous story that brings history, luck, and value together in one coin, because when we talk about the 2005 1 cent worth $1 million, we are not just talking about copper and zinc pressed into a small disc, we are talking about how a mistake at the United States Mint can create something so rare that it changes the lives of those who find it. And to understand why this coin is so important we need to begin by looking at how coins are made in the first place, because every cent goes through a precise process of metal preparation, blanking, annealing, striking, and inspection, and in theory everything should come out uniform and perfect. But when even the smallest imperfection creeps in, whether it is a misaligned die, a double strike, a planchet flaw, or an off-center imprint, suddenly that tiny mistake makes a coin completely different from millions of its counterparts, and that difference is what collectors call an error. And errors can range from very minor that only a trained eye can notice, to dramatic and bold mistakes that anyone can see instantly, and the 2005 1 cent that reached $1 million is an example where multiple errors combined in such a dramatic way that it became one of the rarest pieces of modern coinage. Now 2005 was not a year most people would associate with rare cents, because billions were minted, but in the vast sea of coins a few slipped through with errors, and one of those had such a unique mix of mistakes that it became legendary. One possibility is that it had a double die obverse where Lincoln's features appeared doubled, giving the face, date, or lettering a shadow-like second image, an error type highly prized by collectors. Another possibility is that it could have been struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a cent design struck on a dime's metal blank, creating a smaller or thinner coin that immediately looks unusual, or maybe it had an off-metal strike such as being pressed on a foreign coin blank that accidentally got into the system. These types of errors create instant rarities because they are one in a billion accidents. Another scenario is an off-center strike where the design is shifted heavily to one side leaving a blank crescent of metal on the coin. Collectors love dramatic off-center strikes especially if the date is still visible, because without the date it loses much of its value. So when you have an off-center 2005 cent with full visible date and sharp detail, the rarity spikes. Now when we add in the possibility of multiple strikes, where a coin is struck more than once and shows overlapping designs, the desirability grows even more, and when 2 or 3 of these errors happen together on one coin, the result is something so unique that it can never be duplicated, and that uniqueness is what drives collectors to bid hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, and this is exactly what happened with the 2005 1 cent in question. It combined multiple high-value error features that created an absolutely one-of-a-kind piece. Imagine a coin with a dramatic double die. Struck slightly off-center, maybe even on a wrong planchet, or with misaligned dies that created a visible clash where the reverse details faintly appear on the obverse. Such dramatic combinations do not just create errors, they create history, because only one or two coins like that might exist, and when auction houses announce their discovery, the entire coin community takes notice, bidding wars erupt, and the prices climb to astronomical levels, and for the 2005 cent, it climbed all the way to $1 million, shocking even veteran collectors. But when you think about it, it makes sense, because rarity plus demand always equals value, and the demand for dramatic US coin errors is incredibly strong, especially for cents, because they are iconic, they are familiar to every American, everyone has held one in their hand. So the idea that one of those tiny coins could be worth more than a house or a luxury car captures the public's imagination, and this fascination only fuels demand further. And that is why the 2005 1-cent error has become a story told over and over in numismatic circles. Now let's take a deeper look at why these errors even happen, because the mint is supposed to be a place of perfection with machines running at incredible precision, but the reality is that billions of coins are struck every year, and in that kind of volume even the smallest glitch can slip through, dies wear out, get polished, or clash with each other, blanks sometimes get mixed from other denominations, feeders misalign, and inspection can miss a rare mistake. All of these factors create opportunities for errors to escape into circulation, and once they do, it is pure chance whether someone notices or spends them without realizing. In many cases, people spend years looking at coins before they realize they have a rare error in their possession. Sometimes it is a child going through a jar of pennies who notices something odd, sometimes a collector finds it in a bank roll. And in some lucky cases it ends up being authenticated by a grading service like PCGS or NGC, which then certifies the error and assigns it a grade, and that certification is critical because it proves authenticity to buyers and sets the stage for high auction bids. Now imagine the thrill of someone who sent in their odd-looking 2005 penny only to discover it is not just unusual but one of the rarest errors ever seen. Suddenly their penny is valued at $1 million, life-changing money for a piece of change. And this is why collectors are always on the hunt, because the next $1 million penny could be sitting in someone's pocket right now, waiting to be discovered. And that sense of possibility is what keeps the coin hobby alive and exciting. So when we talk about the 2005 1 cent worth $1 million, we are talking about more than just errors. We are talking about history, human error, chance, rarity, and the passion of collectors colliding together. And the truth is there may be more out there, perhaps other 2005 cents with hidden errors waiting to be noticed, perhaps already sitting in collections or even in circulation, and every time someone checks their change they might be staring at a fortune without knowing it. So if you have 2005 cents lying around, take a closer look at them under good light, check for doubling on the date and lettering, check if the strike looks off-center, feel the weight to see if it matches a cent or something lighter, look at the edges for irregularities, because you never know, your ordinary coin could turn out to be extraordinary. And stories like this inspire people all over the world to pay closer attention to their change, turning the simple act of handling money into a treasure hunt. And treasure hunting is exactly what this feels like, because you are chasing the thrill of discovering something unique. And the 2005 1 cent error is the perfect example of treasure hiding in plain sight. And what makes it even more exciting is that errors are not always obvious. Sometimes they are subtle like die cracks that create lines across the coin. Sometimes they are dramatic like missing layers of copper revealing zinc underneath. Sometimes they are completely bizarre like double denominations where a cent is struck on top of another coin. And all of these possibilities make the field of error collecting incredibly diverse and unpredictable, which means that every 2005 cent you examine could hold a surprise, and every surprise could lead to a fortune. So while most people see pennies as nearly worthless, collectors see them as potential gateways to history and wealth, and that is why the story of the 2005 1 cent worth $1 million will continue to be told, because it represents not just one coin but the possibility of many more waiting to be found, and as long as people search, as long as errors exist, the excitement will never end. Last 2001 cent USA coin. Today's exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and error coins, where we uncover how something as small and common as a United States 1 cent piece can transform into a multi-million-dollar treasure, and in this case we are talking about the incredible story of the year 2001 cent coin, a coin that at first glance looks just like any other penny you might find in your pocket or at the bottom of a drawer, yet certain examples of this coin have been valued at an astonishing $2 million because of the rare errors and mistakes that occurred during its production. And today we are going to unravel what makes these tiny copper-plated zinc discs so unique, how those mistakes happened, why collectors are willing to pay such incredible amounts for them, and the different possibilities that contribute to their high valuation. So sit back and let's explore every detail, because understanding this coin is not only about looking at a small piece of metal but about understanding history, minting technology, human error, rarity, collector psychology, and the laws of supply and demand that all converge to make a coin like the 2001 cent worth such an unimaginable amount. And we'll start by talking about how coins are made in the first place, because the minting process is a critical part of understanding errors, since every coin begins its life as a blank planchet, a small round disc of the proper metal composition, in the case of 2000 cents being 97.5% zinc coated with 2.5% copper, which replaced the earlier bronze composition in 1982. Then these planchets are fed into presses where dies strike them with thousands of pounds of pressure, imparting the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and in theory every coin should look nearly identical. But because of the complexity and the massive scale of minting where billions of coins are struck each year, mistakes are inevitable, and those mistakes can produce errors that collectors cherish. Now in the year 2000 billions of pennies were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and for most people they were just everyday coins used in change, but a very tiny fraction escaped with dramatic errors that transform their value, and these errors range from off-center strikes where the design is not properly aligned with the planchet, to double strikes where the die hits the coin twice creating overlapping images, to die cracks where flaws in the die leave raised lines on the coin, to missing elements such as the absence of plating or parts of the design, to one of the most dramatic mistakes known as doubled dies where the hubbing process creates two slightly offset images, making features like the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile look doubled. And in 2000 some spectacular double die examples exist where details such as Liberty or In God We Trust appear clearly doubled, and these are considered prize finds worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars on their own, but when combined with other rare conditions such as pristine mint state preservation, full red luster, and dramatic visual appeal, a single example can rise to the multi-million-dollar category, because collectors know that rarity plus demand creates explosive value. And when you think about it, with billions of 2000 cents produced, finding a single error that stands out means you're dealing with 1 in a billion odds, and that kind of rarity ignites bidding wars among advanced collectors, auction houses, and investors who want to own a piece of minting history. And the appeal is not only in the mistake itself but in the story, because a 2001 cent worth $2 million represents a perfect storm of error, condition, timing, and demand. And speaking of timing, the year 2000 holds a special cultural resonance because it marked the turn of the millennium, a historic milestone that adds psychological weight to any collectible from that era. Coins dated 2000 feel symbolic of change, continuity, and the start of a new century, which makes them even more appealing to collectors. And now let's explore some specific kinds of errors that could make a 2000 cent soar in value, starting with off-metal strikes where the wrong planchet was accidentally used. Imagine a 2000 penny struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or even a foreign coin blank. These mistakes do happen because of leftover planchets in the minting machinery, and when discovered they instantly become valuable. Some known off-metal strikes have fetched tens of thousands of dollars, and if a unique 2000 cent off-metal error in flawless condition surfaces, collectors would easily push its price into the millions. Another possibility is the mule error, which occurs when a coin is struck with dies that were never meant to be paired. For example, if a cent obverse was paired with a dime or quarter reverse, these are among the rarest mint errors in existence, with some mule coins already selling for hundreds of thousands. So a mule involving a 2000 cent would be a blockbuster discovery. Then there are broad strikes and partial collars where the collar die fails and the coin expands abnormally, creating dramatic oversized cents that collectors crave. And on the microscopic level, doubled dies remain a powerhouse category, with clear doubled lettering on Lincoln cents being among the most famous error types in U.S. coinage. The 1955 doubled die cent, for example, sells for tens of thousands even in circulated condition. So a 2000 doubled die with similar strength, preserved in high grade, and perhaps with an additional striking error could create the perfect recipe for multi-million-dollar value. But condition is as critical as the error itself, because collectors use grading scales from poor 1 all the way to mint state 70, and a coin with a rare error in pristine condition skyrockets in value compared to one that is worn. So a 2001 cent error graded MS 67 red or higher could command staggering sums, especially if it's a unique discovery. Now what makes these coins more interesting is that most people overlook them. Millions of collectors go through pocket change, coin rolls, and bank boxes searching for these rarities, and it's the thrill of the hunt that drives the hobby. Knowing that a $2 million treasure could be sitting in a penny jar, and this possibility fuels entire communities of treasure hunters, YouTube channels, and coin forums, all buzzing with the dream of finding that once-in-a-lifetime error. and stories abound of ordinary people who stumbled upon rare cents and sold them for life-changing sums, which only adds to the mystique. So when you combine human fascination with rarity, the excitement of discovery, the documented history of valuable error cents, and the symbolic date of 2000, it becomes easy to see why a 1-cent coin can be valued at $2 million. And it's worth noting that auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have witnessed bidding wars on rare errors that defy logic, with collectors willing to outbid each other not just for the coin but for the bragging rights of owning something virtually no one else can have. And this competitive psychology plays a massive role in pushing values sky high, because when two or more wealthy collectors decide they must have the same coin, the final hammer price can shatter records, and once a coin sets a precedent by selling for millions, all similar coins are re-evaluated upward, creating a ripple effect throughout the numismatic market. So the 2001 cent valued at $2 million is not only a symbol of minting error rarity but a beacon for collectors showing how small mistakes can lead to monumental value. And think about the irony that a coin worth just 1 cent by design could become more valuable than luxury cars, real estate, or even some works of fine art. It shows how the world of collectibles can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Now let's also consider the metallurgical and technical aspects, because the copper-plated zinc composition of post-1982 cents introduces new error possibilities compared to earlier bronze cents. Plating blisters, peeling copper layers, and incomplete plating can all create dramatic visual errors, and in some cases entire layers of copper peel off, exposing the silvery zinc underneath, creating stunning contrast that collectors love. And when such an error occurs on a symbolic year like 2000 and is preserved in high grade, it adds layers of desirability. Similarly, die deterioration and misaligned hubs in 2000 produce some unusual varieties where lettering and details appear stretched or distorted, and although most are minor, a few dramatic examples could command extreme premiums. Now from a historical perspective, Lincoln cents are already the longest-running coin design in U.S. history, starting in 1909 and continuing through decades.